Hello and welcome to this video tutorial brought to you by tutvid.com. Today we're going to take a look at creating sort of this image loader here in Flash CS4. Basically what it is, it's going to load images JPEG, .gif or GIF, and .png files, all using Actionscript. Actually, we're also going to be loading .SWF files, so other Flash files you've created you can actually load into yet other Flash files. So it's very useful for all kinds of things, image galleries, and even websites. Let's say you have a website and you want your home page to be one Flash file. Well, link up the home page so when somebody clicks on the home button, it loads that home .SWF. And let's say you have a portfolio, it's a totally different Flash file. Same thing, link that portfolio button to load that Flash SWF all into one sort of master Flash file. And there are ways of preloading these individual pages, and really the biggest advantage to it is a user can choose what he or she wants to see. You don't have to force somebody to load your entire site or your entire photo gallery. You can just have them load the bits they want to see. So very, very useful, saves you a little bit of bandwidth, saves the user a bit of time. So it's a win-win situation, and definitely something that is something you ought to know how to do in Flash. So this is just on a very simple scale. We're going to load these images in, and here let's preview and check out what I've got. What I have here are, I've got two photographs and two of the same Flash files. Now, if you have purchased this tutorial, you're going to have these four images that we're going to use eventually, as well as this SWF file. So here, load the third image, and there we go. We load that image. I'm going to load the second image. We've loaded both the images. And then here is an SWF file. You can see that I have a bit of interactivity. I can roll over the pause button. You can see it's just this animation. I can stop the animation like so, but then I can play it again if I want. Let's load the first image, and it's that same exact SWF. You can see that I can pause that up there, and then I can also pause the one down here if I like. And you can see that you can have two SWFs loaded. They're the exact same file, but I can have independent control over either one. So it's very, very cool, and very easily I can go in and just swap these two SWFs with other images. Okay, so again, if you purchase this tutorial, you're going to get this SWF file, and you're going to get all four of these little images. The other one is basically her other eye, and then the little heart watermark thing down here. So you'll get all those images so you can follow along, as well as this sort of template I've created here. You'll get that whole thing so you can kind of follow along. If not, we're going to run over how we can create our own basic template. And also, I just want to give a quick shout out this model who I am using. She actually got in contact with me via YouTube and very kindly lent me several of her images to use. So all of her information will be in the video description of this video. I urge you to go check out her gallery. Very beautiful young lady. So with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and cut the chatter and get started here. The first thing we need to do is go File, New, and we're working again in Flash CS4. You can, however, follow this tutorial in Flash CS3. We're using Actionscript 3.0, so that's just something you want to keep in mind. If you don't have CS3 or newer, you're not going to be able to do this. Alright, now that we have a new document, I'm just going to reference my old document. Yeah, I've got a pretty dark gray background back here, which more than likely is this dark gray, just like so. Alright, now let's go ahead and look at the next step. What we want to do for the next step is double-click to open up our timeline, and right off the bat, create two new layers. I already know I'm going to need 3 layers total for this sort of image loader or gallery. I'm just going to start referring to it as a gallery. Alright, the top layer, I'm going to call it AS. The second layer, I'm just double-clicking, by the way, to rename these. I'm going to call this one Buttons. We're actually only going to have one button here because we're only going to load one image in this case. But I'm going to name it Buttons because my other one was called Buttons. There were 4. The last layer we're going to name Containers. Okay, again, we're only going to have one container, but that's beside the point at this point. The next thing we want to do is grab the rectangle tool. The hotkey for that is simply the letter R, and just draw out any old rectangle. However, before you do it, just check. We don't want a stroke, so I'm going to select stroke over here and just click on the cross button to just no stroke. And the fill, that doesn't matter. We're going to change the fill in a second. And you can just draw out any old rectangle. Great. First thing we're going to do is set the width and height to 200. 200 by 200. Now, conveniently beforehand, I've cropped my images to fit 200 by 200. If your image or SWF does not fit into the container that you have created, it's just going to spill out of the container onto your stage. So you want to make sure you've cropped down whatever it is. There are ways of masking in Actionscript. We're not going to get into any of that stuff in this video, just simply loading. So again, we have our shape down sized at 200 by 200, excuse me. Lost my train of thought there for a split second. And I've cropped images, yada, 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 to fit this. All right, great. Now that we've done this, I'm actually going to change the color of this. We're just going to choose sort of a medium gray like so, just because this is what we initially see before we load anything. And we're going to go Modify, Convert to Symbol. We're going to convert it to a movie clip symbol. Now here's something that is also important, the registration point. Wherever you have this registration point, that is where the top left corner of your loaded content will start. That's your starting point. So right here, if I left my registration point as the dead center, when this image loaded, the top corner would be here, and I would have all of this empty gray region to the left and to the top. So we want to be sure we set the registration point to that very top left corner. Very, very important. All right, next up, we're going to give this symbol a name. That's always something we want to do. We're going to name it MC Contain. There we go. Hit OK, and there we go. We have a movie clip. Now, another thing that's very important, we need to give this guy an instance name to keep things nice and simple. We're going to name it 1. However, you cannot start an instance name with a number in Flash, so we're just going to name it _1. That should work for us. Great, now that we've done that, we want to create a button here. Well, how do we do that? Instead of going through all that hoopla and actually creating a button ourselves, I'm just going to go Window Components. And when the Components panel opens, you can see there's a block here called User Interface. All right, we want to choose Button. Just drag just a generic, plain old button right out on the stage and close the Components panel. Now, you can see that it is called just Label. A very easy way to change that is right over here in Properties. You've got your Component Inspector button. Click that. The Component Inspector will open up. By the way, you can also get to the Component Inspector going Window, Component Inspector. All right, we got the button selected. What you want to change here is the label. You can see it's called Label, and its value right now is Label. I'm going to change that value to Load Image. Actually, Load File, because we're going to be loading an SWF as well as an image eventually. All right, close the Component Inspector. Check it out. It's been changed to Load File, and this button actually automatically has a rollover state, so we don't need to worry about creating one of them. Great. Now that we've done that, we also want to give our button an instance name. We're going to give it a pretty straightforward instance name here of load1_MC. So basically, the reason I called it that is because this is going to be the button that loads the one image, and we're just putting _MC there for Actionscript purposes. And the last thing we want to do before we go ahead and start entering some Actionscript is select this movie clip we created before. I forgot to add a quick filter. So here, filters in the properties panel. We're going to come down here and, well, I'm moving off stage. Let me open up the library just so we don't move off stage. Drag this guy down a little bit and scroll down to the bottom. All right, I'm going to hit the new filter button, or add filter button, I should say. We're going to add a glow, and this glow is going to be 20 pixels by 20 pixels. The strength is going to be 30%, and the color will be white. There we go. We have added a nice little subtle glow around our box. It is now time to start coding. Select the keyframe on the AS layer and hit F9 to open up your Actions panel. Alright, here's where the fun begins. What we're going to do is we're first going to code this and totally ignore the button. Just because I want you to have a couple different ways you can bring stuff in. This basically, as soon as your SWF file loads on the web, it's going to automatically load this image in. Alright, how do we do this? Well, the first thing we need to do is set up the URL request that's going to say, hey, this is the address, if you will, of the file that I want to load. This is where you can go and find it. So we're going to type var, and I'm going to say img1 request. Now, I'm only one R there. The reason I'm saying img1 request is because I'm thinking, maybe I'll have a couple images later on, and actually the other file that has 4 images or 4 SWF files, depending on what you want it to be, that has image 1, image 2, image 3, and on and on and on. So image1 request, and then we're going to put a colon, and we're going to say URL in all caps, request with a capital R. There we go. Space equals space, a new instance of the URL request class. Now, after we type URL request, we want to place an open parenthesis and 2 quotes, close parenthesis, and a semicolon. We're going to move in between those open and close quotes, and we're simply going to type 1.jpg. Now, this is the address to this file because Flash is looking from itself. It's sitting in a folder. It immediately looks around itself for a file called 1.jpg. And that's all I'm saying. Now, if I wanted it to back out or go to a file that's in a specific place on the web, I can type the exact address of that image in if I like, http, ://www. Wherever.com /this folder /this image.jpg. You can do that, and you can even relatively reference a file by saying, let's say I have a folder right over here. This is the folder where these files are. You can see all these different files. If I had a folder in here called images, and that's where I had, this image and this image, and don't want to drag that guy, and this image, and and so on and so forth. I could just say, images/1.jpg. Then this would first look for a folder called images, and then within that folder look for 1.jpg. So we don't need that images / because we have no images folder. The images are just there in the same directory is what it's known as our SWF file. Great. We have provided Flash with the URL. Now we want it to go ahead and we need to create a loader to load this image. So we're going to say var. And we're going to call this img1 loader. So we've got img1 request and img1 loader, and this is simply going to be a loader. It's going to be equal to a new instance of the loader class. Open and close parentheses, semicolon, enter, or return once. All right, great. Now that we've done that, we need to go ahead and say, hey, img1 loader, here's what I need you to do. I need you to load. So we're going to say img1 loader.load. Okay. Then in parentheses, we need to say, okay, you want me to load, what would you like me to load? Well, up here, we want it to load this URL, which is 1.jpg, but we're just going to put the name of that variable in there. So we're going to say img1 request, because that img1 request variable now is containing, or it is equal to, 1.jpg. Okay, so that's the way variables work. If you weren't familiar with variables, they simply hold data. So img1 request, and we got to remember to put our semicolon on the end. Great. Now that we've done that, we're going to target our symbol _1, just like I just did a moment ago. All right, _1 dot add child. So we're going to add something inside of _1, and the child we would like to add is img1 loader. Close parenthesis, semicolon. All right, let's just check our script. No errors. Beautiful. I'm going to hit F9 to close my actions panel. Control Enter, Command Return on the Mac. Let's test this, and it's telling me the URL is not found. And the reason we're getting that error is actually because I just remembered I had unplugged my hard drive that has that image on it and actually has some of these other files. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to restart Flash real quick, and we'll be as good as new in just a moment. Alright, well, I've just restarted Flash. Yes, I make my fair share of really stupid mistakes, and that was just a little bit of foresight on my part. Control Enter, Command Return on the Mac, and we can resume where we were. And hey, look at that, it works now. How wonderful. So you can see we've just loaded 1.jpg, which is this image right here. Now, this is super easy to switch. Let me close this. Just hit F9 once again, and I'm just going to switch this to like 3.jpg. F9 to close the actions panel, and Control Enter Command Return, and you can see a totally different image loads. That easy. We didn't need to go in and mess with the symbol or anything like that. We just switched one character in our ActionScript. Now obviously it's because our file name is so short, but hey, it's that quick. So now that we've done that, let's look at tying it to this button. It's really not that much more difficult. It's not more difficult at all. It's just you need to add a couple more lines of code. So let's select the AS layer right there, that keyframe really. Hit F9, and we want to go ahead and between lines 2 and 3 here, we want to add a line of code that says, all right, look, our load, and I forget the name of the button now. Let me just select the button. Load1 _ MC. Load1 _ MC dot, and here's why I put the MC on the end. Because when you use MC, it gives you this little drop-down menu, and I can just double-click Add Event Listener, and that saves me all that time for typing. Now, I just wasted the time explaining to you what happens, but now you know for next time. So, add event listener, and what we're listening for is a mouse event, and that's mouse with a capital M and event with a capital E as one word. So, mouse event dot click in all caps. Then I'm going to put a comma, and I'm just going to say, I don't know, click F. That's the name of the function that I want to be triggered when I click this button. Place a semicolon at the end of that, and we're good. Hit enter, return a couple times. Now, as you may well know, we don't have a function called click F. So we're going to create a function, and we want this bit of code here, the bit of code that's actually loading and placing the image. We want that to be inside of our function. So we're going to type the word function, and we're going to name the function click F. That's F with a capital F, by the way. Open parenthesis. I'm going to type the word event, colon, mouse event, like we did a moment ago with mouse having a capital M, event having a capital E, close parenthesis, colon, and the word void, open curly bracket, move down a few lines, and place a curly bracket all the way beneath these two lines of code. then what I want to do is select both of these lines of code, like so. All right, I'm just going to highlight them and hit Tab once just to indent them. I like to keep my code looking as neat as possible, keep a little bit of organization in the hectic world of coding. So there we go. Now, theoretically, as long as I didn't mess anything else up, this will, when clicked, this button, when clicked, will load the image and not before. So let's just check to make sure. No errors, great. F9, close up that Actions panel. Control-Enter, Command, Return if you're on the Mac. Great, no image loads. Select a load file, and you can see, voila, there it loads. Very cool. Now we could set up another button that takes the image out. We're not going to go through that right now, and I'm not even going to begin to explain how to do that. It's very, very simple though. But, okay, before I go on and just make you really want to know how to do it, what we are going to do, just to play it safe, presumably when you're loading an image online, it's going to be bigger than 200 by 200, and really any kind of image needs a little bit of loading time. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of code that says, look, after this image has loaded, then go ahead and display it. Don't try to display it before you've loaded it, because we're only telling Flash here, look, add this child right away. Bam! As soon as we load it, add it. As, you know, add the child to this _1. What if this is a huge file? Well, you know, it could cause some problems. So here's what we want to do. We want to come in here and just add a couple more lines of code that are basically going to say, look, don't go ahead and do that until we're sure you've loaded. And basically, this line 7 here, _1.addChild, this whole line is going to go inside of another function. So if you want to keep you from getting confused, highlight it and just hit Command or Control X, cut that right out of there. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to type img1 loader dot add event listener. See that I just moved right down and grabbed add event listener. There, I didn't need underscore anything because this is built into Flash. Flash knows you know what's going on here. So img1 loader dot add event listener, and what we want to do is go ahead and say, oh, I forgot one thing. Let me just delete all that. Dot content loader info. That's what we want. img1 loader dot content loader info, and then dot add event listener, and of course no pop-up menu for that. Okay, now that we've done that, inside of here we're going to say, look, when you listen or when you hear the event, so that's event with a capital E, dot complete in all caps, comma, we're going to say execute the function load now f, close parenthesis, semicolon. So we're basically going to take this this loader right here, img1 loader, add this event listener to its content loader info. So we're listening through the content loader info for basically the loading to be complete. When this thing finishes loading, then we're going to execute this function. And you can probably guess what this function is going to do. We're going to hit enter wereturn to move down to line 9. We're going to type function. Now this function is within this click F function. So we have a function within another function. Function load now F, and now has a capital N, F is a capital F. This is an event, colon, event with a capital E. This is not a mouse event, just a regular old event. Colon void, open curly bracket, enter return a couple times, close curly bracket, up arrow key, and in here we're just going to hit Command or Control V to paste that _1.addChild, and that child we're adding img1 loader. Alright, great. Let's just check this, make sure we don't have any errors. No errors, splendid. Hit F9 to close up the Actions panel. Let's test the movie, make sure we have no errors out here. Load the file, and it loads right up. Now, you probably see no difference. I saw no difference. You're going to see no difference. It's because we're working locally. This file is already loaded on the computer. There is no loading time. So, you're not going to see the difference. You need to take it out into the web and use, try to load a big file, like, a page of a website. If you're loading another SWF file as a page of a website, you probably want that to show up after it's finished loading. Okay, so great. Now that we've done that, let's come into the Actionscript and take a look at loading an SWF file. Piece of cake. We come into here and just replace this with 1.swf. Great. Close the Actions panel, hitting the F9 key. Control Enter, Command or Return. Press Load File, and you can see we have our SWF file. Again, when I roll over that button, it gives me my pause button. When I click that, it switches to play, and when I hit play, well, it plays. So great. That's how you do that, and that's it. That's how you load images into a container. Well, that is it for this one. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a thing or two. And if you liked it, even if you didn't like it, go over to the site. That's www.tutvid.com and check out the other great video tutorials over there as well. So that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. All right. I did say it was just the end a moment ago, I know, but I'm feeling a little bad about what I said earlier. I'm going to show you guys. We're going to throw another button here, and we're just going to unload this image or SWF that we loaded, all right? Here's how we do it. We're going to select the buttons layer, and we're just going to duplicate this button, hold down the Alt or Option key, drag it right across. I'm not going to be too worried about alignment. Again, this is just a quick go in and, make this thing happen. We're going to select Component Inspector, and because I am a perfectionist, not enough of a perfectionist to make sure this is aligned, but enough of a perfectionist that I'm going to name this Unload File. All right, great. There we go. So we've got our Unload File button, and we're going to call this Unload1_MC. All right, great. We're going to come into Actionscript, and we're going to pop a couple more lines of code in. We're actually going to duplicate this entire line of code here. Command or Control C, enter return to add a line, and we're going to name this Unload1_MC. We're listening for a click, and we're going to call this unclick F. This really should be load F now that I think about it. We'll call this unclick F and create a new function down here at the bottom called function unclick F, and it is an event. It's a mouse event. Close parenthesis, colon, the word void, open curly bracket, enter return a couple times, close curly bracket, and the up arrow key. All right, basically all we're going to do here is we're going to say _1 dot remove child, open and close parentheses, semicolon. Let's test this to see what happens. It's going to tell me it contains no errors. Let's see what happens when we preview it. Control-Enter, Command-Return, and you can see it's giving me all kinds of craziness here. That's because, and my output panel there flashed at me as well. See that incorrect number of arguments. That's because what we actually need to do is come in here and type img1 loader, like so. Enter return. Let's test this guy out. Great. Load the file. There it goes. We'll pause it, then we'll unload it. Takes it right out of there. See? Very, very nice and easy. And that's how you do it. So that's it for this one. This time for real. Again, go check out the site, www.tutvid.com. Thanks a ton for watching.